Well, my next guest is a veteran Russian diplomat who resigned in May, protesting what he calls Moscow's aggressive war against Ukraine. Of course, Vladimir Putin calls it a special operation. Boris Bondarev was posted to Russia's mission to the United Nations in Geneva, and in a statement on LinkedIn, he wrote, quote, "The aggressive war unleashed by Putin against Ukraine and, in fact, against the entire Western world is not only a crime against the Ukrainian people, but also perhaps the most serious crime against the people of Russia." Boris Bondarev joins me now via Skype. It's good to have you, sir. Thank you. Expand on that, if you will. Why did you resign in February, and what did you mean in what you wrote?
Good afternoon. Well, in short, I resigned because on February 24th this year, my country attacked Ukraine, our neighbor country, I would say our brother country, as we have always thought about it, I mean, most of Russians. And that was a threshold for me. Then I realized that I cannot any longer stay in the civil service. I cannot any longer protect this, this war anyway. And I endured for some time before that because I didn't like what was going on, but I told myself every time that, okay, as far as there is no violence, as far as there is no war, I can put up with it. But the war is something totally different.
Were you shocked? I'm interested to hear whether you were shocked by Putin's decision, February the 23rd, 24th, to invade, or was it telegraphed to you as an ambassador for Russia, effectively, someone who was going to have to deal with this?
No, of course it was not telegraphed to any of our ambassadors overseas, because this decision was evidently taken in an atmosphere of very high secrecy. Even our military, who was stationed along the Ukrainian border, they did not know until the very day of the attack about that they would attack Ukraine. So of course it was a shock for me, though many people say, and the United States intelligence, for instance, they said that the invasion was imminent. Yet I didn't believe that Putin would go to that, because the problems and consequences which would ensue, they were evident to me, and I didn't see any benefit that Russia could get from that. So I didn't believe it. Of course, I was shocked by the invasion.
And 7.5 months in, and with the latest news that President Putin has annexed these 4 regions, you must have been watching that very elaborate ceremony at St. George's Hall in the Kremlin on Friday. What was going through your mind? What's his strategy here?
Well, this speech was a compilation of, I think, of all of conspiracy theories which can now be found in Russian society. It is about this Western determination to dismantle and destroy Russia and so on. It is all that, well, has nothing to do with reality. And, really to watch this speech was very, very painful, I think to an intelligent person. What the strategy that President Putin is now is trying to promote, I don't think he has any strategy. Because the only strategy he had, it was to occupy all of Ukraine in a few days. And that to talk to the West from the position of strength, from the position of a conqueror. Since he failed at that, now all his strategy, so to speak, is to find a way how to get himself out of this position. And his situation is growing worse and worse every day for him.
And over the weekend, Putin ally and leader of the Chechen Republic, Ramzan Kadyrov, called on Vladimir Putin to take more drastic measures, including the use of low-yield tactical nuclear weapons. Given his recent losses on the battlefield, do you believe Vladimir Putin will actually resort to the use of these sort of nuclear tactical weapons or worse at this point?
I believe that he may try to do so if he feels that he is fully cornered and he has no way out. And I think if Ukraine is to continue their victorious march towards the temporarily occupied lands, then I think Mr. Putin will feel this very soon. And but for now, I don't think that the likelihood of his using the nuclear weapons for today is quite high. I don't think it is high, but it may be higher later. But it will all depend on the course of the war, and if the newly mobilized, so to speak, army is to crumble after a few serious blows from Ukrainians. And I have heard that there were a lot of people who surrendered, a lot of who just drop their guns and flee from the battlefield. So this Russian army may start to exist quite soon. And then I think there may be even maybe no one to execute these orders to use nuclear weapons if these orders will come from Putin. And I think if Russian army will be defeated by Ukrainians, then Putin may face some opposition within his own inner circle. So he may even not have sufficient time to resort to nuclear weapons. That's my hope.
That's fascinating. He used his speech on Friday to justify the war whilst calling for a ceasefire or a path to peace. Do you genuinely believe that he wants to pursue peace at this point? And should, given the position on the battlefield and Vladimir Putin's moves to illegally annex parts of Ukraine, should Ukraine and the West pursue his calls for peace at this point?
Well, I believe that by peace, Mr. Putin understands peace on his own terms. And those are like Ukrainian, well, so to speak, surrender to his terms. Because Putin will not give in his newly occupied territories. And that would mean that Ukraine lost the war. And with that, the Western countries, NATO, will be humiliated, which is another goal for Mr. Putin. And then the global political landscape on the planet will change very significantly. I don't think that it is the outcome that the Western countries should strive for.
Right.
And the only piece
so can I
that
ask you,
should...
Can I just ask you very briefly, because of our breaking news, I am going to have to leave this, but I just need to ask you this one question. Do you believe that Vladimir Putin is vulnerable at this point?
I believe that at this point, his position in Russia is weaker than it was before, and he gets more and more weaker every day. But I don't say that we should await some coup or something like this in the near future. I think it's not a matter of weeks, but I think it's a matter of months rather.